Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving deep into something that honestly runs our entire digital world: identity design. It's kind of like this invisible architecture that decides who gets in, what they can do, and ultimately how we keep our online lives safe and sound.
Just think about it for a second. Every single time you log into an app, buy something online, or even just open a file on a shared drive, a system somewhere has to answer a really critical question. In this massive, sprawling world of data and anonymous connections, how do we actually know who to trust?
And that right there is where this all begins. Identity design is the whole process of creating and managing digital identities, making sure that every single interaction is secure and verified. You can think of it as the gatekeeper, the bouncer, and the high-tech security system of the digital world, all rolled into one. So let's get into it. Why is this concept so absolutely critical? Well, it's pretty simple, really. Without a reliable way to verify who is who, the entire foundation of our digital security just completely crumbles. It really boils down to two main jobs. The first is building trust by reliably figuring out who users and systems are. And the second is using that trusted identity to control exactly what they can and, just as importantly, cannot access. It is the bedrock for literally every secure transaction we make online. So, at its core, identity design is all about answering three fundamental questions. First, authentication, which is basically asking, are you really who you claim to be? Then authorization, which asks, okay, you're in, but are you allowed to do that? And finally, accountability, which tracks who did what and when. This creates that crucial permanent record that links every single action back to a specific identity. Now, to make all of this happen, security pros rely on this really powerful framework, often called the 3As. I like to think of it as the official rulebook that every digital gatekeeper has to follow. So first up is authentication. This is that moment you prove you are who you say you are. It's the digital version of showing your ID card at the front door. It is the absolute first check at the gate, confirming that, yep, your credentials are valid. Okay, so you've been authenticated. What's next? Authorization. See, just because you got in the main building doesn't mean you can just wander into any room you want. Authorization is what gives you the specific keys to open only the doors you're supposed to, all based on your verified identity. And finally, we've got accountability. This is basically the system's always-on security camera. It logs everything that happens and ties every single action back to a specific person or system. It creates this undeniable audit trail, which, as you can imagine, is absolutely essential for figuring out what went wrong if there's ever an incident. All right, so we've got the rulebook down, but who, or maybe what, actually needs one of these digital identities? We usually think of people, right? But in today's super complex systems, the answer goes way, way deeper than that. And this is so important to grasp. Identities aren't just for humans. Of course, you've got user identities for people like employees and customers, but you also have system identities for things like servers or your smart home devices. And there are even service identities for all the APIs and microservices that are constantly talking to each other behind the scenes. Every single one of them needs to be properly identified and secured. So how do we actually prove these identities? Well, it happens through what we call authentication factors, and they fall into three simple categories. There's something you know, like a password or a PIN. There's something you have, like a physical security key or, more commonly, your phone. And then there's something you are, which is all about biometrics, like your fingerprint or a face scan. Here's the thing, though. Relying on just one of those isn't really enough anymore, and that's where multi-factor authentication, or MFA, comes into play. It's a true security superpower. It works by combining at least two of those factors. So requiring a password and a code from your phone creates this layered defense that is just so much harder for an attacker to break. Think about it. A hacker might steal your password, but the chances of them also having stolen your physical phone at that exact same moment, pretty slim. So now we've got all the components, right? We understand the building blocks. Now let's talk about how the pros actually use these to design a truly secure system, what you might call a digital fortress. Everything, and I mean everything, starts with this one guiding philosophy: the principle of least privilege. All this means is that you should only ever give an identity the absolute bare minimum level of access it needs to do its job, and nothing more. This one idea dramatically shrinks the potential damage if an account ever gets compromised. Now, to build the actual walls of our fortress, we need some heavy-duty technical tools. We're talking strong encryption to scramble and protect data,
Secure protocols like OAuth, that's the magic that lets you log in with Google on other websites. And then constantly testing your defenses with audits, vulnerability scans, and even simulated attacks called penetration tests.
But the tech alone isn't enough. You need a smart strategy to go with it. That means doing things like centralizing your identity management, making life easier for everyone. It means keeping all your systems patched and updated, having a crystal clear plan for when things go wrong, and making sure you can recover your data if the worst should happen. But, even the strongest digital fortress has one potential weak point: the people inside. And that's why the human factor is just so unbelievably critical. Things like regular security training, teaching everyone how to spot those sneaky phishing attacks, and continuously monitoring for weird behavior, these aren't optional extras. They are non-negotiable parts of a complete security strategy. So when you boil it all down, all of this complex stuff comes back to you. Your digital identity, that collection of all your logins and permissions, is your personal set of keys to the entire online world. So the question I want to leave you with is this: are those keys, are they properly secured?